Is this you? Is this what happens every time you try to factor something? And it seems impossible, and it looks like magic. It's Terry Grigsby, and I'm an online algebra and geometry tutor. I'm always on a search for a new way to factor that takes out the guesswork. And I promise this method is so cool that all your factoring anxiety will be erased. If you're new to my YouTube channel, hit subscribe, the like button, and the bell in the corner so you can find out when a new video will drop. I do them about once a week. Okay, let's get started, and I'm going to move over to our whiteboard to show you how this all works. Okay, so here we are on the whiteboard. Let's look at how this actually works. So again, this is called slide and divide factoring method, and I put in parentheses and multiply sometimes, and you'll see that when we start here. But before I start, this red box is really important. When not to use slide and divide, if the leading coefficient is 1, because you just don't need this method if the leading coefficient is 1. You can just do it the regular old way. So let's look at my first example down here, 2x squared plus 17x plus 8. So the very first thing I want to do here on this example is take this leading coefficient of 2 and slide it down to the end. And yes, I say slide because it's fun. I don't know. So I'm going to make this 8 times 2. Okay, so here's what we've got now that we slid it. We've got x squared plus 17x plus 16. I got that from the 8 times 2. And now, just like you've been doing on the other ones that have a leading coefficient of 1, you want to multiply to get 16, but you need to add to get 17, right? So, to get 16, I like to go in order just because it keeps things clear for me and I don't lose my possibilities. So I'm going to do 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4, and those are my only possibilities here. So now I'm going to add them and see which one gives me 17. So if I go 1 plus 16, well, that's the one I want. But just to show you the others don't work, you'll get 2 plus 8 here. That gives you 10. That's no good. And 4 plus 4 only gives you 8. So that's no good. Okay, so the combination I'm going to use is the 1 and the 16. And now I'm going to place them in the parentheses here. So I get x plus 1 and x plus 16. Now you are not done yet, because if you multiplied this out, you would not get 2x squared plus 17x plus 8. So now remember that number that I slid down here was this 2. So now I have to divide these numbers that I got by 2. And then I'm going to simplify them and see what I get. So the first parenthesis, I can't simplify it. I get x plus 1/2. But in the second parenthesis, I'll get x plus 8, because 16 divided by 2 is 8. So if they come out to be whole numbers, you're done with that parenthesis. But if you get a fraction, then you have to take that number that you divided by, that 2 in this case, and you're going to multiply it back in front of the x term. So we'll get 2x plus 1 and x plus 8. And we are done, and that's factored. Now you could check it by multiplying it out, but you don't need to do that. Notice the 1 here, just to be sure. I did multiply the 2 times the x. So whatever is in the top of the fraction, that becomes the number at the end. Okay? So it's really easy. You just slide the leading coefficient to the end and multiply it, and then find the combination that works. And when you're done, divide by whatever number you slid down to the end. And if the number can't be simplified, you multiply it back in front of the x again. Okay, so let's look at the second example here. I have 20x squared plus 7x minus 6. So I'm going to slide the 20 that's out front, slide it to the end, make it times 20, right? And so what I'll get then is I'll get x squared plus 7x. Notice the middle term never changes. And then the end, I have to go 6 times 20. That gives me minus 120. And now I have to go figure out what works for that. And notice I already did that for, so we didn't spend time. But do notice, like, I did it in order. Here's a really big hint. Why did I make the little numbers negative and not the big numbers? This is how you tell every time. If your last term is negative, you're going to match the bigger number to whatever the middle term is. Since the middle term is positive, I want my big numbers to be positive. And then I'm just going to look through this list to see which one would give me 7, and it looks like that one. -8 plus 15 would give me 7, and notice the sign's right and everything. Okay, so I'm going to use that combination now back here. So I'll get x minus 8 times x plus 15. And again, you are not done, because you multiply that out, you wouldn't get a 20x squared. So now that 20 that you multiplied with, you've got to divide by that now. That's why it's called slide and divide. So divide both of those by 20. And now neither one of those are work, but they both can be reduced. So I am going to reduce them if I can. So that's going to give me x minus, I could take a 4 out of both of those and get 2/10, or 2/5, sorry. And then on the x plus 15, I could divide by 5. So I'd get x plus 3/4. So notice they have different bottoms, but I don't care, because we're just going to multiply now. So what you multiply with is by the bottom number, the denominator. So I am going to get 5x minus the top of that fraction, 2, times 4x plus the top of that fraction is 3, and I am done. And what in the past would have been a hideous problem to do actually was quite easy. We just listed the possibilities, divided by the number that we slid, multiplied it back in, and boom, we were done. There's no magic here. And that's what I really love about this method so much. So that's how we slide and divide and sometimes multiply to do factoring. This is just one method. If you have other methods that you like really well, list them in the comments down below, because other people would love to know other methods. And if you use slide and divide and you like it, shoot me a note in the comments also. I'd love to read those. All right, that's it for today. Please, please, please check out my website and look around a little bit. See, you could sign up for my newsletter and maybe even book a session with me. I would just love to work with you. So that's it for now. I'll see you next time.